Megaland is a game that I picked up recently in my friendly local game store. I like the art. It was a little bit of an impulse buy. I like the art and I like the quick description on the back that gave me the sense, oh look, it sounds like a board game inspired by one of those app video games in which you're running, collect coins or treasures or whatever it is. Then you make your little town, or you buy whatever in-game purchases you want to make, and then you go back and you run again, and then you buy again, and then you run again, you spend all of your money, run again, spend all of your money. What a beautiful metaphor for 21st century capitalism. But back to us. So it seemed like a video game based on that sort of app, and I was interested because I know my daughters like that kind of video game, and I'm always looking for alternatives, for unplugged alternatives. And I already play a lot of board games with my daughters, but I know that if I come on with a game and say, hey, this is kind of like those apps that you like, but with actual cards and actual physical components, I know that that is by default a little more attractive. I know that I can hijack their natural, normal fascination for screen-based entertainment, and I can then redirect it towards something else. So this game is based on those apps. It says so explicitly when it says, or at least it lets you understand that when the rulebook says that the first player is the one that played a video game most recently. In this game, you will have a push your luck phase in which you are collecting resources, and then more an investment phase and tableau building where you're using those resources that you acquired to build your little town and your little engine of resources. So these two interesting elements that maybe you're worried, will they really go together well? They do, they do. The game is actually pretty good. Oh, spoiler for my conclusions, but I like it, and I can tell you somebody who likes it even more than me. My daughters, 6 and 8-year-old, they love it. One note before I show you the main game. I already filmed the segment you're gonna see next, and I realized that I made a mistake in the setup. You will see two lines of cards. One is the special cards that change every game, and one is the standard cards that are always there. For some reason, I show you only 5 types. There are 6 types of standard cards. That's all that I wanted to let you know before you watch the video. Other than that, to the best of my understanding, what you're gonna see in the video is how the game is played, or at least how we play it. And we have fun, so I guess we can't possibly be messing it up too much. Anywho, before I continue forever with this introduction, let me show you how Megaland works. The game is divided in rounds, and each round has 3 phases. In the first phase, players will run and collect treasures. In the second phase, they will spend those treasures to buy these buildings and to build their own town. And then there will be a night phase in which certain effects will be triggered. For example, the fishing pond gives you a benefit, as you can see from the little moon there, during the night phase. So these are the buildings that you're allowed to buy, and we'll get to more details later. But in general, here's the number of treasures that you need to pay, so that is the cost. Also important, those treasures need to be different from one another. So to acquire the gym, I need 2 non-matching treasures. So to acquire the lodge, 4 non-matching treasures. There are 2 types of buildings. The standard ones that are available in every game, and you can tell them from the start here, and you put them in stacks of all representing the same, there was a mistake there, all representing the same building face up. You know, deck building style, so that you buy the one on top and the same, a copy of the same is available for the next player. That is for those 5 ones, they're always available. Then you have variable ones. You will select 7 types randomly. It is good, especially at the beginning, to have numbers from 1 to 5, so have a range of costs, but you don't have to. And this is just an example. I chose 7 kind of randomly. There are more to choose from. And again, deck building style, multiple copies of the same one stacked on top of the other. However, you could also choose to play the variant that we came up with, simply because I misread the rulebook at the beginning, in which you shuffle all of these variable cards together, all of these, and all of these in one single deck. You draw 7 of them randomly, and that's it. So basically all cards are potentially in play, then you don't know exactly what's gonna Happen next, you cannot plan ahead too much. There's just more variety there. My daughters and I really like that variant. But you know, whichever floats your boat or helps you run and collect treasures. Here we have the running tile. Each player has a personal pawn and you place it on that tile to indicate that your character is still running. Basically, it's a push or luck game in which after each phase of the run, you choose if you want to keep running with the possibility of getting more treasures, but also getting nothing if you're unlucky, or to go home, in which case you remove your pawn from that tile and you actually finalize the treasures that you collected. The treasures that you collect, you actually get to bring them home and to use them. This is the treasure deck. This is the deck of cards. We'll talk about those that you use to actually see what happens in the race. Finally, we have a personal card where you store 4 hearts. You start the game with 4 hearts. If and when you take an injury, then you slide a heart from this section to this section. You may acquire extra hearts during the game, but if during the race you ever go down to 0 available hearts, then you fall, and that is when you're out of the race and whatever treasure you may have collected is lost. During the run, you collect treasures and you put them on top of your card to indicate that are only temporarily yours. If you make it home without getting down to 0 injuries, then you move them under your card to indicate that those are now yours and you can spend them. So at the beginning of the round, the beginning of the race, as we said, everybody's healthy and everybody's there on that card. The first thing that you do is you give a treasure to each player and they place it again in their personal but temporary area. After that, you flip the first card here and you put it next to that card there. And maybe it's just a normal landscape, and that means that nothing bad happens. Now, you can just stay there to indicate that you're still in the race, but I'm playing with kids, and so we actually like to, they want to see the race, so we simply like to move everybody who's still in the race to the next spot. And then each player decides if they want to stay or not. If you want to go home, then you remove your pawn and you have those to spend in the buy phase. Otherwise, what happens is you get a treasure, you resolve another card, and then you get the choice again to stay or go home. Each time you stay, you get a treasure and you draw a card. If you draw a card with a monster number of skulls, then that is the number of wounds that you take, so that is the number of hearts that you lose. And here you have a breakdown of the cards, so the running cards, that tells you that 3 cards have no damage, 3 cards will give you 1 damage, 2 cards will give you 2 damages, 1 card will give you 3 points of damage, and 1 card is a treasure box, that is, you get an extra treasure on top of not getting hurt. And so even my daughters that are 6 and 8, this way they were able to calculate probability and get a sense if they wanted to stay or keep running. Or to stay and keep running or go home. Let's say I'm brave, I took 2 injuries, but I want to stay, so I take another treasure, but then I have to resolve another card. Oh, and that was lucky because that is the treasure box, so I immediately take another treasure, and then I'm gonna decide what to do. You know what? I'm kind of happy I decide to go home. So we go down to my personal area here. Now these treasures are mine, and I can use them to buy those buildings that I showed you earlier. Remember, those buildings, the cost is the number in the top left corner, but they have to be non-matching. So basically now I can only spend 3 cards to buy buildings because the egg matches the egg. However, I can also spend treasures to buy hearts, in which case, actually, this time, here you have a player rate, these need to be matching. So, for example, with 2 matching treasures, I can buy a 5th heart. So right now, I could spend these 2 to buy a matching heart, so to buy an extra heart, and these 2 to buy a building with value up to 2. Or I could choose to buy a building of value 3 and save this one for the next turn. At the end of the turn, You usually discard all of your treasures unless you have buildings. So I decide to spend these 3 to buy this building here, which is 3. I put it there. Then for each building that I have, I can save a treasure for next round or rounds in the basement. But there's just a lot of variety. You simply could have chosen to get a 5th heart and to buy 2 different buildings of value 1, to buy a building of value 2, a building of value 1, and store this one for next turn. So a lot of variety there. Different buildings will give you different things, and a common thing that you want is coins. This symbol here means that the building gives you that number of coins when you acquire it. That's a one-time benefit. Coins and other tokens are stored in this totally mega awesome tray here. And then some cards may also give you other coins, and they give them to you every time that the condition described on the card applies. For example, the Lodge will give you 2 coins each night phase. Again, remember, first we run, then we buy, then there's the night phase. So this is a very powerful card. Other things will give you different things, will allow you to trade differently. For example, when you return home with this and you have this building here, you may draw a treasure and discard a treasure. Other things will allow you to spend treasures as something else. So once per round, you may use 1 carrot as any other treasure with the root market, and so on and so forth. Basically, you're running and building your tableau to collect coins either as a one-time benefits and or from different game functions and little engines that you have built. The first player to collect 20 coins usually wins the game. More technically, when a player collects 20 coins, the game will be over at the end of that round, and the player with the most coins wins the game. This is in case there's more than 1 player reaching 20 coins at the end of a single round, in which case, again, the player with the most coins wins the game. But you need to have at least 20. I like this game, and I can tell you somebody who doesn't like it but love it, my daughters. They're crazy about this game. It's one of those cases where it becomes too much of a good thing. I'm just like, whoa, this game is fun. And it's like, yeah, this game is fun. 50 games later, Papi, can we play again? I'm like, I guess. So it's good, luckily enough it's good, and I see how much joy it brings to my daughters. I am starting to get a little bit burnout, but just because we have been playing it so much in the last couple of days, which again I say in a jokingly fashion, because ultimately I'm happy if in fact my daughters get to the point of forgetting that there is an app and they want to play this game. I picked them up from school yesterday, the second they got in the car. Dad, we need to go home because we need to play Megaland. We haven't played since last night. I was like, okay, let's do it. So if nothing else, good value for the money. Bought it on my friendly local game store. A little bit of an impulse buy. Already got my money back, and I think in a sense that how much value, how much use we got out of this game, and I think it's gonna be a staple in our regular rotation, at least with my daughters. Haven't played it with adults yet. I think it can work well. It's a simple game, it's a light game, but I see how, as a casual game, adults may enjoy it too. Adults will see the pusher-luck element, which is always fun. Adults may recognize the tableau element, a little bit of almost deck building or engine building, almost like a Machikoro feel here and there. The art is beautiful, it's pretty, so definitely it's a pleasant game, but it really, more than anything, surprised me how well it resonated with my daughters. The first time I played it, it was my 8-year-old playing against me and the 6-year-old. The 6-year-old just wanted to play in team with me because she maybe didn't want to, I'm afraid it's too complicated, I don't like losing, I'm gonna just help you, Dad, put down the cards. And then she loved it, started making all the decisions. So we played as 3 teams, or sometimes just me and the 6-year-old. A 6-year-old can absolutely play this game. I win, usually. My sister wants to play. But she understands the rules, she understands the concepts. I'm a little bit of a better planner. Does it sound cold? I don't know. But it's a fun game because it's so simple. And what I like about the game is I like push your luck games, especially games where you can push your luck, but you don't have to. There are push your luck games where you're forced to do it. There's nothing else you can do. Here you actually can definitely choose to never push your luck at all. Simply to stop right when there is a possibility that you could lose everything. You have four tokens, then you go and then you get another treasure, and you get another treasure, still have 4 hearts, and then you lose 1 heart. There's possibility that there's a monster with 3, and it just stopped there by default. And basically the 6-year-old, interesting enough, that's her strategy, which is really good because children, they don't like to lose resources all that much. They, at least in my experience, a child is more bereft by losing a turn or losing a treasure than by losing the game. When you acquire something, it's very hard for them to let it go. And you can play it safe. It's a push a luck game in which you can play perfectly safe. And I think actually, if you're still buying the right things and right combos, you have absolutely legitimate chance of winning against somebody who decides to push it a little more. But I definitely like the range of possibilities. A push a luck game where you can push a lot or 0, not at all, and then it's more of a tableau building. But definitely those two elements that seem so foreign to one another work very well. They really work well together. They feel absolutely integrated. You're almost like playing 2 separate games, but it works. One leads flawlessly to the other. Also in the fact that, in fact, as you are running and you see what you have, what you collected, what that lets you get, or how far you are from something you want, that consideration of what you will do next, of course, may and should probably play a role in how much you decide to push. If I want to push my luck just for the fun of it, or I'm going to push my luck because, in fact, if I get that treasure, then I get the super mighty card that I want, etc., etc., etc. So definitely the two parts are better integrated than you would expect at first sight. But in general, what you have is, again, that plays fast, that has interesting decisions, that is not overwhelming in terms of rules. Heck, in fact, a 6-year-old can play it. It looks good, it plays well, and it is a lot of fun. Personally, I have to take a break from this game, but that's just me because we have been playing it to death in my house. But in general, I'm definitely happy that I got this game. I loved it. I enjoyed it a lot. I need to take a break and then I'll love it again. My daughters are still loving it. It is just a really strong and fun family game and casual game.